Alright, so in this video we're going to take a look at how to add button prompts to our screen and kind of specify which ones are needed for which particular screens. So to do that, we're going to create a new blueprint widget. We're going to call this Xbox button UI. Alright, and to this we're going to add a couple of things. So we're going to have two sets of buttons on here, so let's separate them into their own canvas panels so that we can toggle them on and off. For this guy, let's call this select button panel. We also want to expose this as a variable because we want to be able to toggle it on and off. And then to this guy, actually let's add another one. We're going to call this guy back button panel, and make sure that's a variable as well. To the select button panel, we're going to add a few things. We're going to have a background image, we're going to have an image for the actual button icon, and then we're going to have a text for the text that should be displayed beside it. So let's do image. So we'll call this background image. Or we'll call it select background image. And we don't want this to be a variable. Right, and then we're going to add the icon for it. So we're going to call this guy select icon. We don't want this to be a variable as well. And then we're going to do one for the text. I'm going to call this select text. We don't want that to be a variable either, and we want it to say select. Okay, and then we're gonna do a similar thing for the back button panel. So we're gonna add an image. We're gonna call it background image. We don't want it to be a variable. Then we're gonna add another image for the back button icon. We don't want it to be a variable. And then we're going to add the text for the back text. And we'll specify back. Okay, so now let's make these a little nicer. So we want this to actually, yes, we want this, the select, this is the back panel, we want it to be anchored in the corner. 0, 0. Actually, let's do this. Let's do the back. We'll change the text to black. So we'll change the text to black. We want the background image. Let's just change it to gray, just so we can see how this icon is. So for this guy, we actually want a button, an Xbox button, right? So for that, you can Google Xbox button icons. Right, so if you Google for Xbox button icons, you'll be able to get a bunch of them. There's this one on OpenGameArt. You can download all of them. And then it comes with a bunch of images for different consoles. Here's A and X for Sirius X. So we can just drag those into our, we'll put them inside our textures. Okay, so then inside in here, we want the back button icon to be B. I'll do 30. Right, so we want it to be something like that. And then back text, we gotta move around. So that, let's do, oops. Do 0.5. Oops. Or so something like that. We can also make the text a little smaller. Oops. Alright, so something like that. So there's our back button. And we want this guy to be one here, one here, like that. Alright, so now we're going to do the similar thing for our select. So this guy, we want it down here. So this guy will do 2. Oops, not that. Background image. I'm going to copy this color. Background image. I'm going to paste it here. And then for the icon, I want A. We want that 30 by 30. And then we want the text. We'll copy that. We can also make these light as well. And just change the size. The size was 16. So let's change that to 16 as well. And then we want this. We want to be over here. And then we want, what was this guy? 0.5. Right, so something like that. Oh, what happened there? All right. So now we go to our graph. We have our back button panel variables that we'll be able to hide or show. But then let's create a couple of other variables to see if we want them to be visible or not. So let's do back button visible, and then let's do another one for select select button visible. We want these two to make it so that we can edit it on each instance, and by default we want to set them to true. Alright, so then what we want to do is inside here under pre-construct we want to do some stuff. Right, so the way it's going to work is let's go to the main menu, you're going to add a Xbox button UI. We're going to put it in the corner. Actually, we'll do 1, 1. Right, and then in here we want to be able to, if we select back button visible, it should hide it. If it's not visible, we want to hide it, actually hide it in the screen. Same thing for the select. And if we just want select to be visible and not the back, then we want to move the select button over to the corner. So now we can set it, but that's what we're going to do next so they can visually change right away. And we're going to do that inside the pre-construct. So for this, we're going to create a little sequence. So we're going to have 3 things that happen: set the visibility of back, set the visibility of select, and then determine if we need to move select. So the first thing is, let's get the back button visible. So if back button is visible, we do a branch. So let's put that up here. Right, so if the back button is visible, then we want to get the back button panel and set its visibility to visible. Otherwise, we want to set it to not visible. So, right, so if that is off, then we want to make the back button panel hidden. All right, so this is for back button visibility. All right, so then we want to do the similar thing for our select button. All right, so we'll do a branch. That's going to be the next sequence that happens. Right, so if the select button is visible, then we want to set the visibility to true. Otherwise, we want to set it to visible. Otherwise, we want to set it to hidden. All right, so this is set up select button. All right, and then finally, the last thing that we need to do is we want to do some logic to determine if we should move the select button panel. Because right now, if we go here and if we say, hey, I don't want the back button visible, it disappears. Hey, I don't want the select button visible, it does not disappear. That's not good. So let's figure that out. Oh, I never set it to hidden. There we go. So if we go here, we select this guy. If we don't want the select button, it goes away. If we don't want the back button, it goes away. But it looks a little weird that it's here. It'd be nicer if it was moved into the corner as well. So that's the next step that we're going to take. Right. So in order for that to happen, we check to see if back button is not visible, and if select button is visible, then we want to move the button, right? So we're gonna do a branch on this. Right, so if that is the case, we want to get the back button, the select button, and move it to the appropriate place. To move the appropriate place, we can just play around with the alignment, but first we need to get the back button panel as a canvas slot. Slot, so if you type in slot as canvas slot, it will return us a canvas slot that we can use canvas slot operations on, right? So to do that, the one that we want is called set alignment, right? So technically what we're doing is we're if in the select button, we're going to change this from 2 to 1, right? And then it's going to go to the right spot, right? So in here, if it is if we do want to move it to the right spots, we'll do 1 1. Otherwise, we'll move it to the original spot, which was 2 1. So let's do, actually, we don't need this. All right, and this is move to the correct spot. Okay, so now let's compile and save this. Go back to the main menu. So now if we don't want the select button visible, that's good. If we don't want the back button visible, the select button moves in the corner and it looks a bit nicer. All right, so this is the main menu. We can't go back from the main menu, so we only want select. All right, so that's what we're gonna keep there. For our pause menu, we should be able to press back and do select as well. So we're going to do that. We're gonna add one of these guys, put it in the corner, 0 0 1 1, and we want to do both, right? So we leave this one as is. So now if we play, let's save everything. What? Oh, this happened before too. And it's not fun. I might have to close the editor. So let me open that up. So sometimes that happens when one of those windows gets kind of stuck. All right, so let's see. Let's open up the start screen. Press a button. Okay, so now we have select, which is good. I selected, I play, I pause. Now I have select and back that I can press. But if I press B, it doesn't actually do anything. Start button unpauses it. Resume unpauses it, but pressing B does not. So that's what we're gonna do next to finish up these button prompts. All right, so to do that, let's open up our side scroller character, and we're gonna do some stuff in here. So let's add a back input action first, right? So let's do input action. We're gonna call this back, and we're gonna use the controller face button right. Controller face button right. So this is B on an Xbox controller. Right, so now on this guy, we're gonna do input action, input back. So if back is pressed, we check to see if the game is paused. Right, so if the game is paused and we press B, we want to unpause it. Now, these actions don't get executed when they're, same thing as in here. It doesn't get executed when it's paused by default, so we want to do the same thing. We do want to execute this by default when it's paused, because when we show the pause menu, the game will be paused. So if we press back, we need to unpause at that point, right? So, and then in order to get this to work, I think that's it. Let's just try that. Where is it? Let's go from the splash screen. Save all. Oh, so here we have a problem. Actually, no, that's good. So I'm trying to pause here. Pausing doesn't do anything, which is good. We don't want to show the pause UI here. If we go to start and I pause and I press B, it unpauses. All right, so if I pause, I can press start to resume. I can click on this button to resume, or I can press B to resume, right? So there's different ways to get out of this. Now there's one other thing, one other case that you'll probably come across. That is if, where is it? If we want to press B on a screen when the game is not paused, like credits, for example, if you, from the main menu, if you open up the credit screen and if you want to press B to go back to the main menu, there's some extra things you have to do, right? So inside your credits level, for example, if you have a separate level for the credits screen, you can do the same thing, create a player, create a credits UI widget by passing in your credits UI widget, add it to the viewport, get the active player controller, and then you also want to set the input mode to game and to UI as well, right? Because the B input action will be part of the game. So that's why we want that to be the game as well. So you need to listen to the back input action, which means that the input mode needs to be set to game and UI. So when you have a credits level and you add the credits UI, you want the game to be game and UI as well. And then when you construct your level, there's this node called listen for input action. And the input action that you want to listen to is back. So you want to type back in there. And then create an event on it. Once that event gets triggered, we just want to open up the main menu. And it's a good idea to consume the input for the back button as well. Right, so the problem with this now is, since it's game and UI, we'll be able to pause during the credit screen, which is what we don't want, right? But you can do the similar thing there as well. You can listen for an input action paused and consume it, and then have your event do nothing. And at this case, once we've consumed the B, it won't be forwarded anywhere, and we won't do anything. Once the pause has been sent in, we'll consume it so that the player character will not be able to pause the game, and then we won't do anything, which means we won't be able to pause on that particular screen. Right, but this this stuff from here, these 3 slides, will be for you to practice on in the lab. You're going to be required to create a credit screen that will, you'll have to implement it using it this way. All right, that's it. Thanks, everyone.